Sarah, from the Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 2, was such a wasted character. She could have been Clementine's chance to get into Lee's shoes of training someone young and new to the cruelness of the Walking Dead world. Instead, we only had her devolve into a Ben Paul of getting the group in trouble and dying at the end with no redemption to her character. I've become a writer who cares about characters and their development, and to see her literally fall from grace like that to be Walker Chow really irritates me. I see her the same way Raditz from Dragon Ball was also wasted potential too. And just like what Masako X did, I decided to step up and ask a simple question. What if Clementine trained Sarah? By training, I mean Clementine decided to, instead of leaving Sarah to her own devices, she decided to truly step up and show Sarah the ropes on how to be considered a survivor out there in the world of living and dead jerks. But first, how did this come to be? Well, let's take a trip down memory lane to Season 2, Episode 2, A House Divided. Now, I know that doing a Walking Dead Telltale What If is probably more complicated than a Dragon Ball or some other franchise What If, as The Walking Dead was meant to be a choose your own path type of game instead of a completely linear story. And since I'm new to the what ifery, and maybe down the line I can produce more stories faithful to the lore, I'm just going at it my way first, and see from your comments how to improve on it. So, hear me out when I begin to basically think on how this can begin from the last option of episode 1, saving either Pete or Nick. This paragraph will focus on if Clementine chose to go with Pete, even though she knows he got bit in the ankle. Why am I going for him first, even though spoilers, he's going to be mauled by walkers in this very episode? Well, 3 reasons. First, Nick doesn't die in this episode of the season, so not saving him is not going to have repercussions like Doug and Carly in season 1. 2. Since Pete's going to die anyway, might as well utilize his character before he's snuffed out too early on in the season, unlike what happened to Omid. And 3, if you look back on his conversation with Clementine down at the stream, he could have been what inspires Clementine to act out on this what if. He said things like,
You know, Nick, I don't like this either. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to realize a simple truth.
What, that you're an asshole?
That nobody in this world is ever gonna give a goddamn whether you like something or not. You gotta grow up, son.
So maybe, instead of this being filibuster for the episode, or something to give the voice of actor for Pete a paycheck at the end of the day, why not let Clementine take what Pete said to heart, remind her almost of the lessons Lee said to her before she had to leave him behind. Now, with that build-up out of the way, we can get to the story of episode 2's beginning. Clementine and Pete have holed up in that big van. Walkers are banging on the exterior shell outside, and Pete has given up on trying to hack off his leg. Clem finds some cigarettes to let him smoke on, and she wonders what to do now. Pete simply responds,
We wait.
Now, in the original, this is simply how their conversation ends, but since it's probably like around 16 hours until their next one, I think in this what if, Clementine decides to speak up to pass the time. So, what was it you said again to Nick long ago, back at the river? What, the growing up thing? Well, I figured it was true. It's what Rebecca's baby will end up realizing at such a young age when he comes out of her. It's what I hope Sarah herself will learn before cowardice and over-reliance on her father will end up being her downfall. You seem to have already understood this, but other children out there aren't so lucky. So, Sarah never had to deal with pain, loss, or suffering? Not entirely. She was there when Nick had to kill his mother. She was part of our group. and her old stature left her vulnerable and she got bit. Looks like history's repeated itself with me. She begged him to kill her, then make her a liability, and Sarah simply screamed, cried, and ran upstairs in the cabin. She didn't speak until several days later. I worry that once Carlos is gone, she would truly cease to function. That is the same thing that Carlos said to me about Sarah, too. Well, I think we had enough talk, Clementine. Let's now just rest and let night fall. We end up at nighttime, and the same conversation between the two goes like normal up until what Pete asks for Clementine to promise. Would you would you please promise me to watch out for Nick and Sarah too? I won't be around long to teach them how to grow up. So maybe you, a kid who's already learned that lesson, could maybe do that job for me? I'll I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Then it continues for normal, of Pete having them go outside, he's unable to run away, even if you picked he should come, and Clem flees the scene as fast as she can. Then we have, of course, her explaining what happened to Carlos and Rebecca, and them going out to find Pete and Nick. Carlos again says,
Clementine, can you please watch Sarah? She's upstairs. Just distract her.
Clementine remembers Pete's words about her, and since this time the two are going to take longer to find Pete and Nick, unlike the original, and for the sake of the story getting more depth, the husband and wife then head off. Clementine then finds Sarah at the door with the camera, of course, but for the sake of continuity, Sarah will instead say she found this in her closet instead of that crawl space under the house that was lacking the old stuff she described. Clementine still takes Sarah's photo, great, but when she asks where's her dad, Clementine chooses the you should know what's going on option. She then explains what she said to Carlos and Rebecca, and since it's a lot to take in, Sarah still ends up curled on the ground with Clementine getting down to her level too. Sarah then shows her the gun she found, but this is when Clementine says something. Actually, Sarah, I think there should be more than just that. I should teach you. What do you mean by that? Face it, Sarah, us being kids in this walker-infested world won't matter. We need to stick together and become survivors. But we're safe here, in this cabin, with the group. Why would we ever go? Because, Sarah, people move all the time. Places like this can become targets for walkers, or worse, living. But they don't know we're here. They? It doesn't matter. It's just Carlos said I'm not old enough to handle these things. Look at me, Sarah. I'm younger than you, and do you see me with my parents holding my hand? No, but I would have assumed you got separated from them when you got here. That's not true, Sarah. They did separate from me, but only on the first few days before the outbreak. When I saw them again, they were walkers. I'm sorry. But I didn't go find them alone. I had a group with me, and a man who taught me how to become strong. A man named Lee. He went through a lot to keep me alive, such as when our members fell one by one for one reason or another. He ended up getting bit, and I was forced to put him out of his misery. But in his death, he left me feeling not lost in this world. And I don't want that to what happened to me as first happened to you. What happened to you? Aside from the horrible deaths, that is. I was young, naive, and underprepared for the apocalypse. I ran from the walkers, and almost got cornered by them had it not been for a guy with a shovel kill them for me. Only when I learned how to shoot did I finally get things better for me. I saved the woman from getting bit. I stopped my friend Lee from being strangled by a stranger. And I ended up sparing him from becoming a walker at the end. If I had learned these lessons early on, I might have been able to save so many people, especially Lee. I trusted that stranger I mentioned early on, who simply stole my parents' radio and claimed to have had them when it was a big lie. Lee went on to go rescue me, but got bit in the process. Oh, I see. But what do you want to teach me first? And as Masako X says at the end of his videos, and that's where we're leaving things off for right now. I don't think this was too shabby for a what-if beginner story, but now I'm gonna leave a poll. What should Clementine teach Sarah during the duration of before Carver or the cabin group comes back? Should she do what Sarah said and teach her how to use a gun like in the original season? Should she take her outside and teach her how to fight walkers or possibly people? Or should she simply help strengthen Sarah's composure when it comes to hard situations like Carlos and Rebecca dying or something? Or should it be all three at the same time? Vote down below, and we'll see if your thoughts come to shape the second episode. And if you have any of your own Telltale Walking Dead what-ifs, or possibly other series what-ifs of Telltale to try tackling, maybe also say them below to see if any can catch my eye, or help me out on a few other ideas I want to try beyond this one. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Peace.